Hello and welcome back to Full Circle Angling. Hope everybody's well. So today you join us on a bit of a smash and grab session up in Northumberland, and I've got a fair bit of rag left over, so I'm just going to get that used up. I'm going to get a little bit of bluey on as well, just to mix it up. I'm fishing again. Well, I'll say again, if you've seen the previous video, I'm fishing with me Old Faithful Coniflex Flatty Fanatic. Absolutely love that rod. And my, again, Old Faithful Abu Green Margalite. Seen a fair bit of service. It's in immaculate condition. That's loaded with 14-pound Sakuma line, mono that is, not using braid, with a tapered shock leader. Absolutely, in my view, ideal for this sort of work. I love using a multiplier with a light rod. I just really enjoy fishing that way. Braid is obviously infinitely more sensitive than mono, but sometimes when there's a little bit of surf and you're fishing light, because I'm only using a 4-ounce watch lead here. When there's a little bit of surf, the watch lead will give us a bit of grip, but the stretch in the mono and the bend in the tip of the rod will help as well. So I'm going to be fishing. I've never fished this beach in my life. I have walked it once or twice. The tide's ebbing now. We've got about another 2 hours for bottom water. And I know from walking here previously, there's a lovely big hole to the right hand side of these rocks. And I can see it there. There's just a nice big dark blue lump. I've got to be a little bit careful though, because I don't want to be casting into these rocks. As I say, I'm only using light line. So I'm going to just flick it into there, see if I can pull anything out, and if there's nothing here, I might just move along the beach a little bit. The tide at the minute is going out, so it's going from south this way to north that way. But you would automatically think, right, the pull should be to the left. Maybe, but there's a big headland to my left. And with the tide hitting that, there's a chance that it might eddy round and it might actually pull us that way into the rocks. So I'm going to cast a little bit to the left first, just to make sure my gear's out of the rocks, because I don't want to be, well, I'll not have a chance unless I'm very lucky to pull anything out, because as I say, I'm only using very light line. So we're going to get it out there. We'll not be fishing to much depth. Rigs is just a very, very simple 2-up flapper, up being that both baits are above the lead. Short snoods, 1/0s, got a pennel on the bottom for the worms and just a single hook on the top for the fish bait. Fairly compact rig. There's a bit of movement. I don't want loads of hook lengths getting tangled. As I say, I'm using a 4-ounce watch lead, which is ideal for this close in light surf fishing. Distance wise, I'm not going to be fishing more than probably 60 yards, I wouldn't have said. So it's all close in stuff. I just want to get into that hole and see if we can catch something. I'm on a bit of a time challenge here. I reckon I've got maybe if I'm lucky 2.5 hours. So anyway, enough waffle, let's get some bait out there. Right, first cast, as I say, I'm going to go a bit to the left and just make sure that my gear doesn't get pulled into that rock bit there. Have to say, I do love this type of fishing. Really light gear. You can be really mobile. Great. There's a bit more surf than what I was bargaining for actually, but we'll see. Need be, I might just have to stand and hold my gear. That sea is absolutely perfect for a bass. Perfect. I've never had a bass in February, March or April, so if I could get one today I'd be absolutely delighted, but I'm not holding my breath. So we're down at the down at the Euros a couple of weeks ago and managed to meet 1 or 2 subscribers to the channel, so that was really good. One lad I met, it's quite amusing really. Some of you might have seen I did a cod fishing video back in, I think it was September, early October. It was September actually, and I'd been using yellowtails and my fingers were absolutely filthy with yellowtail ink. And I'd made a comment because I had a date with a girl the next day about me yellow fingers and how I needed to try and conceal them. Anyway, I was speaking to a lad and he said, "Oh, how did the date go?" And the girl I went on a date with is now actually my girlfriend of more or less 6 months. So, moral of the story, if you're going on a date, make sure you've got plenty of yellowtail ink on your fingers. Can't resist it. Right, as I feared, even though the tide's going out, so it's going from right to left, it's actually pulling us to the right because I think there's a bit of an eddy, so I'm just slightly nervy about getting too close to those rocks because it's going to be game over if I get hung up in there because I just haven't got the end gear to pull out. So I'm just going to recast this a little bit to the left. I didn't feel any resistance there actually, but because it is going to pull to the right, I might as well cover a little bit of the ground and just let my gear just roll into that hole. So I'm just going to go a touch further up here. In fact, you know what I might do? I might off the ground it. Rarely use an off the ground cast. It is a good simple cast that if you've got a flat surface you can generate a lot of power with it, and it's pretty fail safe as well. You're not relying on timing of the lead when you're swinging it around and all that. Definitely the best fundamental cast to learn if you are getting into casting or looking at pendulum casting or whatever. Right, come on. Last few days definitely feels like spring's in the air. Friday I think it was about 16 degrees. It was really, really nice. Yesterday when Gary and I were fishing it was probably, I don't know, 10, 11, but there was no wind, sun came out, it was nice. Although today, getting a little bit of a reminder that it's still only mid-March. There's a little bit of a southeasterly blow and it's just creating a bit of chop on that sea, and it has got a little bit of a bite to it. So they always say with March it comes in like a lion and leaves like a lamb, so I think there's still a little bit of lion kicking about. There's definitely quite a few fresh lambs as I was driving up here today. Not that I really like lamb actually, I'm more of a chicken or steak man myself. I've just had quite a lot of slack line on that. There's a few rattles and then there's a bit of slack line. Now I have cast about 45 degrees, so there's every chance it's just waves hitting me line, but there's a bit of movement that looked quite lively there. Give it a few more minutes. And change that rag. I do want to have another crack at this hole in front of us, but as I say, I've just got to be a little bit careful. I have to say, for me, it's just, for all the different types of fishing you can do, there's just something about this sort of fishing that, I don't know, I just really, really love. It's just dead simple. Flat beach, flicking it in close, just watching the waves lap over the sand. The water's gin clear, there's barely anybody about. What more can you ask for, really? Particularly when the old man's rustling up a nice Sunday lunch for later on when I get back. Kind of grumble, kind of. What would make life just that little bit more sweeter, of course, is a fish. I'm going to be very, very liberal with my bait offerings today, because there's still quite a lot of rag in that box. Actually, I hadn't appreciated just how much rag Gary had bought, but just had in the cool box overnight in the car, and it's bang on, like, from Lenny's in South Shields. So cheers, Lenny. Top quality rag here. Look at that. What self-respecting bass could resist, eh? Bait wise, as I say, there's nothing to this. I'm just threading 2 worms up the hook. Top hook, I'm just nipping the pennel in. So just three wraps round, 1.5 inches or so back out, pull it through, and away we go. Some really, really interesting features on this beach. I've got a big hole to the right of us, and I think it goes up quite sharply to the left. There's a lot of breakers and there'll be a sandbar there, so probably want to not go too far to the left, because otherwise I'll just be casting into a shallow area. I want to kind of be further into this hole, but as I say, I've just got to be a little bit careful. Right, that feels pretty good, that. Right, come on, I'm just going to hold this rod and hopefully feel for a bite. As I say, I'm back on the old favourite, 6,500 Abu Margalite. Absolutely beautiful bit of kit, this. God knows how many fish these reels have been responsible for catching over the decades they've been around. Really, really nice. I've got the old faithful Flatty Fanatic. This is actually, for the more observant out there, two different pieces of 2 Fanatics. That's the older original one there, and I don't know if you can pick that on the camera. It's got a lovely sort of carbon weave to it, and somehow when I was younger, God knows how, I lost the bottom half of it, and at the time I managed to get another one, and you can see there, Rutherford's Coniflex. That actually says Sweepstake River Tyne 2006. So managed to get another boat, which is a lot newer, but still fishes exactly the same. Still, even to this day, a little bit annoyed that I lost the bottom half of the original rod, because I really did like the carbon weave on it, but never mind. Right, back to the fishing. Enough waffle about rods. So I think my plan of attack here is going to be probably have possibly one more cast into this hole, and then if I don't get anything, I'm going to shift maybe 50 yards down the beach and get out a little bit further and get out just in and amongst and possibly behind those breakers. Just try and cover a little bit of ground in the hope that I can pick something up. What a cracking evening to be out fishing. Lovely, quite a moody sky. Sun's just starting to go down there. It's probably going to be dark, fully dark in about an hour and a half, which, of course, a bit of dusk's never a bad thing for bass. So we'll see what we can do. Water up here, even though there's a little bit of sea, it's absolutely crystal clear. I was down, went down to Seaton Sluice area for some breakfast, and there was a bit of sea on down there, and the water was just like chocolate. Because you've got the Blythe not far from there, and then the Tyne to the south. So there's a lot of fresh water coming out, especially with all the rain we've had. It'll just be really dark and murky. But lovely and gin clear up here. Right, I've shifted along the beach a little bit. That hole's just emptying out. So I'm gonna get onto that little sandbar I mentioned just here to my left, and I'll fire it out a little bit further, because I think with the tide ebbing, we're on the first day of the transition from neap to spring. So from now for the next week we're building up to bigger tides, but so it's not a big tide today by any means, but with the oh, picked up the wrong one there. With the beach being so flat, I am losing water quickly, so I need to just keep making sure that I get that I'm fishing at enough depth really, otherwise of course I'm just completely wasting my time, particularly when I'm on a bit of a time limitation here. So we'll get this one out there, chuck it a bit further. I'm going to keep that bit of bluey on there because I'm just being a little bit lazy, to be honest, but just in case there is a turbot or something that prefers fish baits. Right, let's get this one out there. I'm just going to hold the rod, and then if any bass does come in and slam it, I'll be able to feel it straight away. You get so used to fishing with braid that you get spoilt really, because there's no mistake in a bite when you're using braid, 99% of the time. But sometimes it's nice. I like to go back to mono, and I like to, especially with a rod like this and light line, you can just put it between your fingers, and it's surprising how much you can still feel, even when you've become so used to using braid. If you pay attention and you hold the line, it will surprise you what you can still feel, especially when you've got a really sensitive tip like this rod has. Just getting dark, just noticed that my gear had pulled all the way at the right, and I've been rewarded with a lovely, it could almost be mistaken for thinking that was a place, but it's got a lot of orange spots on it. Lovely little flounder, just lip hooked, so we'll get him straight back. So he's just nicely hooked, full of life, away he goes. Fantastic. I do enjoy watching flatties swim off. Happy with that, save the blank. Right, well, it's 25 to 7, nearly 20 to 7 actually. I'm rapidly losing the light. I haven't had any knocks on this cast. Probably going to wind this in and then get myself along with my parents, settled in with some food and a glass of wine. So, hope you've enjoyed this pretty short and sweet session up in Northumberland. We've had one flounder just to save the blank. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the subscriptions, views, comments, support. I know I say it, but it is appreciated, because without you there isn't really a channel. So really do appreciate that. Hope everybody's out getting amongst the fish, or has got some sessions planned to get amongst them. And yeah, thanks for watching. Tight lines, keep fishing. We'll see you on the next one.